Breeders' Cup weekend is over. Let's take a look back at the Juvenile and turn our attention to the 2023 Kentucky Derby as Prep Briefing returns. What's up, everybody? My name is Colin Sheehan. Welcome back to this show called Kentucky Derby Prep Briefing. This is episode 4, where we take a little time to just catch you up on what's happening on the trail to the Kentucky Derby, all the qualifying races, as horses try to get the required amount of points to get into next year's Kentucky Derby. And of course, we just wrapped up Breeders' Cup weekend. What a fascinating, exciting weekend it was, with Flightline showing how special of a horse he is. But on Friday, we had the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The Juvenile was the 5th race worth points on the trail to the Kentucky Derby for 2023. And this race was worth the most points. The winner received 30 points, by far the most in the 2-year-old season. We had Forte win that 30 points. We had Cave Rock finish second with getting 12 points. National Treasure finished third with 9 points. Blazing Sevens was fourth, gathering 6 points, and Curly Jack was 3. And what's interesting is that these are the same horses that were already at the top of the leaderboard. So aside from some minor shifting, the top 5 remain the same, and we'll take a look at those standings in a minute. Forte, with the win in the Juvenile, combined with the Breeders' Futurity win, has basically secured enough points to qualify for the Derby, provided he stays healthy and that all goes well. And as we know, that is not always the case. So what did we learn as we take a look at Cave Rock and Forte's stretch battle in the Juvenile? Well, we learned that Forte, at least in this snapshot of time, just in this moment, is a very talented 2-year-old out of the Pletcher barn, who's also been aided by a hot pace up front in his last 2 races. Remember, the race prior to this race in the Juvenile was in the race against Loggins, when Loggins went out and set a really hot pace, 22 and then 46 second half. In this race, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Cave Rock was softened up by Hurricane J, but Baffert also did mention that he was disappointed in Cave Rock's performance, and he knows that he is better than what happened in that Juvenile. Speaking of Bob Baffert, if you only tuned in for the Breeders' Cup races on Saturday, you may have missed a 2-year-old out of Uncle Mo who was unraced by the name of Arabian Night. It was interesting to note that Baffert shipped his horse cross-country to debut at Keeneland on the Breeders' Cup undercard, and at 3-5, this horse did not disappoint, as you can see. Absolutely cleaning house with this field. This is a horse we'll want to keep an eye on. And don't forget, while Cave Rock and Forte were stealing the thunder, Baffert's other horse, National Treasure, finished third. So let's take a look at the most up-to-date standings. This is the only place you'll be able to find the updated standings right now. The Kentucky Derby site, if you take a look, at least as of taping this on Sunday after the Breeders' Cup, did not update the points. You'll see National Treasure added to his total after finishing second earlier in the year in the American Pharaoh, and also Curly Jack add points as well after winning the Iroquois and finishing 5th in the Juvenile. So as you can see, it's Forte, Cave Rock, Blazing Sevens, National Treasure, and Curly Jack, the horses that had some either finished first or second in prep races prior to the Juvenile, picking up points in the Juvenile by finishing in the top 5. And they have, so no one's really bumped into that top 5. We just had a little bit of shifting as far as the points are concerned. You see Loggins there at 6th with only 4 points for his second place to Forte in the Breeders' Futurity. Loggins, as we know, took a rest from the Juvenile to train, and I'm really excited to see what we have next from Loggins. So where's that leave us? What is up next? You'll see there that it is the Kentucky Jockey Club on November 26th at Churchill Downs. This race reverts to the 10-4-3-2-1 point system, as do all races for the rest of 2022, which is why I had said the Breeders' Juvenile was the one where you could get the most points this year, with 30 points going to Forte. Why is the Kentucky Jockey Club important? Well, look no further than last year. Last year, this race included Smile Happy, who won it last year, Classic Causeway, and White Barrio, 3 horses that you saw in the Derby, and also the Lecomte winner, Call Me Midnight, also came out of last year's Kentucky Jockey Club. It was a really key race for then finding winners in February, especially someone like Call Me Midnight and then White Barrio. Lastly, I thought I'd just touch on the Derby Future Wagering Pool, which closed on November 3rd. And here is those final odds. The favorite, quote unquote favorite, at 12-1, besides the field, because you can bet all the other horses that aren't listed on this list, and there's more. I just took the top here because in the top, just coincidentally, if you're going by alphabetical order, were the 4 horses that I was interested in seeing based on what the wagering was done on them. And coming out of Pool 1, that favorite was Extra Anejo out of the Steve Asmussen barn, who won his debut by 9 lengths at Keeneland on October 9th. The horses buy into Mischief out of a hard spun dam, who earned a 95 Brisnet speed figure in the first race. Really, really impressive. It's also important to notice that Forte finished 16-1 in this pool. This was done before the Juvenile. This closed on Thursday. Obviously, Friday was then the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So if you got Forte at 16-1, you probably did a pretty good job. Although I wouldn't recommend buying into these pools. This isn't something I like to do, lock up my money for so many months, and especially knowing that so much can happen between now and Derby Day. There you see Loggins on the bottom, who skipped the Juvenile to train, finished at 27-1. So again, like I said, not something I like to encourage wagering on, but it's always interesting just to take a peek to see where the public is thinking, at least at this one snapshot of time, who they're thinking might win. Imagine that. Never mind make the Derby, might win the Kentucky Derby. So Extra Anejo is that favorite, aside from the field, which is obviously another popular pick. Thanks for joining me so much on this episode of Kentucky Derby Prep Briefing. That gives you a snapshot of where we're at, and we will be back when we get closer to the Kentucky Jockey Club.